I was doing everything I could. And then I had a bad night, man. And
were you angry? Were you...
When I put the gun to my head, like I was done. I did not plan on surviving that.
It's really like that, eh? I changed the angle.
Yeah, man.
I thank God every day I wake up.
Every day.
1 year ago, he had his incident.
Him taking his life, that shattered. If I want a soldier's death, I earned it. That's mine. Living my life because of that. Why wouldn't you want to help someone who can't help themselves? I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a quick break from our show to say a massive thank you and a big shout out to one of our amazing sponsors, Dave DiStefano. Dave is a mortgage broker with over 13 years in the business, and Dave has a great rapport with a network of lenders, including big banks, credit unions, trust companies, financial institutions, and private funds. He will work on your behalf to help you find the best mortgage with the most agreeable terms and the lowest interest rate. After meeting Dave many times and having great discussions with him, he provides a level of confidence and comfort in knowing that he is going to take care of you. If you want to reach out to Dave, you can find his office on 6293 Thorold Stone Road in Niagara Falls. For more information or to make an appointment for any of your mortgage needs, call 905-933-1090. That's 905-933-1090. And thanks for listening. Back to the show.
What's going on, Meeting Gold listeners? It's Chris Battaglia, 416 Coffee. Use the coupon code Meeting Gold to get 10% off your first order at 416 Coffee. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Meeting Gold. I just got to say Merry Christmas to every single person. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays and enjoy the new year. This episode was action-packed. We had David Ward on to celebrate Christmas and encourage new perspective and appreciation for life. This episode's a good one. So make sure you stay tuned and have a happy new year.
Yep.
Wow. When did you join?
I joined the Canadian Forces Reserve February 6, 2002.
Okay.
I was, that was the day I was sworn in. So that was a month before my 17th birthday. I started all the paperwork when I was 16.
Before your 17th birthday?
Yeah. So
Wow.
Right? So earlier you were speaking about perspective of life. It's funny, like, where things have led me today and my perspective on life now, like you said, changed. And being 16 years of age, you know, my mom was working multiple jobs to keep the family together. You know, like, I found an outlet that high school, like, I didn't care for it, man. Like, I didn't care for schooling. I realistically, in my gut, I always wanted to join the military or law enforcement. Law was the one subject I actually did very well in, as well as phys ed. And, yeah, I joined the military, and now that was my source of income, and I loved it. I almost dropped out of high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you joined at, like, just before turning 17.
Grade 10, grade 11. Yeah.
What in the military made you so curious to join right away?
I love the idea of heroism, I guess, at a young age, being like seeing someone being the hero, being the good guy or something like that. I also like the sense of adventure and whatnot. So, yeah, like the military was definitely something that I could see myself going into. I've mentioned multiple times that I used to play hide and seek and wear my dad's camouflage when I was like really young. That was what, like, I was fascinated by it.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me. So you had this sense of heroism. In your whole story, I know your story just from what I've read about, but for people listening, they don't, and we'll get into that today. But even now today, it's almost like God's using you as a hero in a whole new way.
No, I wouldn't say God's using me. I gotta use God, man. You know what I mean? Like, my whole perspective and where my faith is now is that, yeah, like my job is to serve Him. You know what I mean?
So, David, at the beginning of all of our interviews, we typically talk about the early age of the individual, because I think that gives us a good sense of who you are, what made you so interested in what you were doing, and then take it from there. So talk to me about the family dynamic at around that 10, 12 years old, and even, 15, 16, when you were thinking about joining the military.
Well, you know what was the thing that I found out was I was in high school, and I found out there was other guys in the reserve as well, and all I had to do was talk to my guidance counselor, and boom, like I was in. So I was like, okay, you know what I mean? But before that, yeah, it was just like my dad was into paintball and stuff like that. He had a crossbow, and I grew up camping. I always grew up with the outdoors. Like, I wasn't really much of a kid playing video games and like indoors. I was always outside, skateboarding, riding my bike, just doing stupid shit. And my love was,
You can totally swear, don't worry about it.
I was being a curious young teenage boy, right? Like, I definitely was always on a skateboard or a bike or out in the forest doing whatever, man.
Yeah. So your mother, you said she was working multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Was she around a lot?
She was there when she needed to be or when she could, you know what I mean? There was a few things that were personal that happened in the family, and my mom, for instance, there was a couple bankruptcies in the family, right? So my mom was definitely doing whatever she could do to provide, right? And I appreciated that, and she still was there. Like, if I needed money for food or something like that, like, yeah. But like once I got that job with the military, I found my way to, put new clothes on my back and help put food in the fridge, right? So that's what I did.
Was there that sense of pressure for you to man up at an early age?
No.
No.
No, I found something that allowed me to man up a little quicker, really. You know what I mean? Because I'm now amongst men. I'm the youngest there with a couple of my peers. We're the youngest ones there in a man's crowd. You know what I mean? So like I had to smarten the hell up quickly.
Yeah.
You know?
That's incredible, especially at 17 years old, to be just thrown into that right away. Was there any easing in, or was it like right from the get-go, you're on?
So military, yeah, man, you have a standard to maintain, and that's it. And you just follow direction, and it was really cool, man, to see how that all went. And today, it's really very common to see people in high school, they do co-op program, co-op programs with the military and schools, and it helps them adapt. So they're getting military qualifications while getting their credits for high school and getting a paycheck. Wow. Yeah. So, like, it's massive, whereas I didn't know that there was a co-op program, right? So I just dove into it, yeah. And then I did that while being in high school. So I went off for basic training. Basic training was a lot of fun, man. I loved it. That was on, like, Wednesdays and weekends. Wednesday nights to go down and do a parade. Weekends to go off and do, like, field training. Right? And I was like, this is amazing. And then Monday to Friday, I'd be at school. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'd be completing school, managing to get through it with a solid 55%. Yeah, man.
You know what? High school wasn't much for me either, I'll be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's a shift in the educational system that doesn't necessarily support the individuals who don't get as much value out of that. Like, they don't, maybe for entrepreneurs or for, guys who want to get into the military. But that's a whole other topic. I want to ask you, let's touch on now your military, some of your earliest memories, being young in the military. What are those memories?
It was so exciting, man. I couldn't wait to go back. Like, get my uniform, pack up my bag, show up, grab your rifle, get on the bus, go away for the weekend. And you don't get much sleep. A lot of the time it was raining, and they're just focusing on training the whole time. Honestly, like me being 17 years old on basic training, I was like, I had no idea what the hell was going on. I was like, this is chaos, but I love it.
What made you love it so much? Was it you were a part of a commodity?
That was a big one, man. Right away, I made like really good friends with a guy named Graham McDonald. Love him to this day. Funniest person I know. If he was here right now, I kind of wish he was. You guys would be dying. He's so funny. We hit it off right away, and we became fire team partners. So we worked together all the time, and then eventually kind of make your own little circle and smoke and joke when you have your downtime, and those were probably the best. And then really starting to understand what's going on with your task, right? So with my favorite part, eventually started learning like really becoming a professional soldier too, right? And that became a lot later. But I mean, the reserves was definitely a great entry into that adventure and knowing that what I love. And that was the one thing that the military was truly my first love. Yeah, I loved it, man. It was so much fun.
To kind of skip a little bit, but we'll come back. When you left the military, what was that like?
It was a long spiral down, knowing that the inevitable was I need to get out, or yeah, that was difficult, and that's still something I'm battling with right now. Like I've only been retired for just over a year now.
Oh, just over a year.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm 37 years old with 19 years of service, and I've been retired 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you got into the military, you did all the training, you did everything like that. You made good relationships. Did you go cross seas and get involved there?
Yeah, so we're now fast forwarding quite a bit there.
Yeah,
But-
talk to me about that.
So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
build you up to that. So just in the beginning of the military service, you have to go and you have to get qualifications. So you got your basic training, and then you get your trade. Your trade course is what made me become an infantry. So as an infantryman, rifleman, just a dude, storm the trench. And then as years went on, past high school and stuff like that, you start going away on taskings and you develop different development of understanding how the military works. And then I did a couple of different courses, such as my reconnaissance course, my recce course. I ended up doing that with one RCR. Now, mind you, so 2002, the year before that, that's when the Twin Towers were hit, right? So we're going to war now, right? So the whole tempo.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole tempo of the military has now drastically changing very fast. Like we're a war-fighting country now, right? So I'm also developing that mindset as well. As like I want to get overseas, I want to serve, I want to do my duty, right? So as I'm getting there, I'm starting to develop more skills. I went away with our Tier 1 Special Forces 1 year, and it was actually first summer I did tasking with the JTF-2. And I really love how those, like, they're true professionals, like Canadian professionals. They're the most badass Canadians you'll ever meet, man. I swear. And they're the most humble, coolest, kindest badasses you'll ever meet.
Really?
Yeah. And they're so professional, like, like, hey, you guys want to come for a rip on a helicopter? Like, sure. You know what I mean? Like, they have everything so wiretight that they can do that. Like, it's amazing. So, came home from that, and they offered me a position for deployment in Kandahar, Afghanistan, Task Force 308. And I was like, my mentality, I was starting to think about special forces, but I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And I ended up deploying. I was an armored vehicle driver with the RG-31, and we're also force protection, so we're in charge of convoys getting like escorting and picking people up and, patrols and whatnot within Kandahar City and within that area of operation. So that was pretty exciting getting ready for that. But we had to go up to Petawawa. We did 1 year of full training and being prepared to go to a war zone, right? So there's a lot that you have to cover. We're now like our medical training, all of that is now evolving. Like the military itself is evolving. And like the way that we're getting standard operating procedures, we're liaising with the United States, right? Especially like we're going down there and training in Texas or Fort Hood, Fort Bliss. No, I've been to the U.S. quite a few times, and Fort Bliss, Texas, or Fort Bliss. Anyways, yeah, we're going down. We're training in their facilities because they have these amazing improvised explosive device, like small towns, and you go in there and they'll set up scenarios. Yeah,
Really? So like a whole training.
they have actors who speak the language and everything, man. It's as real as you can get. It's incredible.
What was that experience like? Like you enjoyed that? It sounds like you really enjoyed that.
I did, yeah. Like it was just like, wow. Because your mission now is you're looking for, you just want to get from point A to point B, get your team there safe, right? Get everybody there safe. But you're also looking for threats and they're combat indicators. And you're just looking like, here's a scenario, this person comes up with a camera in the middle of the street while your convoy's coming up, like, okay, we're going to be on Al Jazeera, right? So, everybody get ready, like maybe hold up, let's try to think of where we're at. Like, you just try to adapt and learn from that scenario. And sure enough, we got hit, like with this, and it shoots like powder. And like all of a sudden the Humvee is covered in like this powder. Like, okay, that vehicle's demobilized. You're all wounded. Lay down, and then they kind of reset the scenario.
You have to figure out what to do and react.
Yeah. Now we're applying medical aid while defending the area. You're sending up information to hire so you can get support to help you get out of there and stuff like that, right? So you're hit. You're convoy down. So they're teaching you that. And then when you get to Afghanistan, man, everything's a combat indicator. Like a donkey walking by. Like, is this thing got a bomb in it? Like, it's crazy, man.
See, it's that, I mean, let me just say this. They show it in movies, like they stuff a dog with a bomb or something horrific like that. It's really like that, eh?
Evil is up to its own creativity, man. That's all I gotta say. Like and then like, now if you think of life like that, it does develop paranoia, right? Like there is a sense of paranoia that comes with that. I even went and worked in a prison, man, and like my mind was going crazy because I was like, everything's a combat indicator. I was there working in a prison. I think it was my first month. They asked me to go search a laundry area because it caught fire, and they took all the equipment out. But before they can let the inmates go back in there and work, we had to search the area. And in the prison with the new guys, right? I go in there, and within like 5-10 minutes, I found a blade within inside of a radiator, right? And like it was 7 inches long. This massive blade that was made by an inmate. Like that was handmade. You can tell that was a blade, but it was beautifully hidden, right? You would never find that. And like the sergeant's like, how'd you find that? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I have a lot of experience searching vehicles overseas and searching people. And like people, if someone wants to cause harm, they're going to think of every way to bypass and trick you to make that happen.
Yeah, wow.
Right?
The line that you said, evil has unlimited creativity.
Yep.
That I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, man.
What was and this is kind of getting a little bit more detailed. If you're not okay with it, we don't have to talk about it, but like action in Afghanistan, what were some of the memories that you have about that?
I honestly, man, I'm very, very fortunate that I've never had to kill anybody. And I've never had to bring any of my close buddies home. Right? So I'm very, like, I have to look at that and be humble and be grateful that, because I know people who have taken lives, if not multiple lives, of the enemy overseas. and they were classified as the enemy because they were a threat. They were a threat to to the patrol or the call sign that's out on operation. And I know people who have had to carry their bodies out. I know people who have had to almost dismember the body of the Canadian fallen just so that they can get the torso out back to Canadian soil because the other half was trapped under a lava. Like I know people that had done horrific things that are going to be trapped in their minds forever. I'm lucky that, you know what I mean? Mine's, I guess, a little bit more emotional trauma that, you know, like I loved Afghanistan. I loved the people. I really wanted to help. And I was getting very frustrated in the fact that in 19 years, I only did 2 deployments. I tried. I volunteered. I wanted to do more. I felt like our country should do more, you know. And my second deployment, I ended up like packing up, coming home from Afghanistan, and I was like, I saw it. I called it. I was like, everybody here that helped, like NATO, Canadian forces, American forces, British, German, they're all gonna die. And then look what happened. We pulled out of Afghanistan, and Taliban's there. They run the country.
Yeah. So do you think we should have stayed?
100%.
And just
Should've
mediated.
Never left, right? Like, I sat in the tower with an Afghan once, Afghan soldier. I hate calling them Afghans. I mean, but an Afghan soldier. And I will never forget him crying, being like, if you guys leave, they're going to kill us all.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's multiple, liaison, the Afghan soldier, when I say Afghan soldier, man, to me, we're brothers. Like, we had the same idea that we wanted to help, we wanted to work together. You know what I mean? Like, they were equal, right? And, there was multiple soldiers and other liaison workers, Popeye being one of them. Popeye was just an old Afghan man that, he didn't really speak much language, but he always had this big gray beard, skinny, frail man, but he was always ripping around on his quad, helping out, filling the generators, and, it was a loyal worker, great guy. We all loved him. He was loved by many Canadians and was slaughtered by the Taliban for working with us. That was brutal.
Was that a little bit of the emotional trauma that you experienced when you came back?
It's just when you can almost foresee it happening, and I know I'm not the only one, right? Like, it's hard. Some people may be able to brush it off, but yeah, like I can just see it everywhere. And then when ISIS stood up and you just sat there and watched the TV and saw them doing what they're doing, that drove me crazy. That was like a really bad one because now, fast forward even more, okay, so I've done now 2 deployments to Afghanistan, and now I'm an actual operational ready sniper, and now I'm at the peak of my career. ISIS is doing what they're doing, man. They're creating chaos, and just watching people fleeing for their lives. Why aren't we doing anything about it?
What makes you instinctively want to help so much?
Why wouldn't you want to help someone who can't help themselves? I don't know. To me, I guess it comes natural, especially when it comes to defending themselves. I hate bullies, man. My name's David, and I guess David and Goliath. You know what I mean? If you're a bad dude.
I get where you're going with it. That's really interesting. Is there anything in high school that maybe triggers that? Like, were you bullied in high school, or did you have good relationships in high school? Or
I guess maybe there was a point of where that happened a bit, but since then I've seen those people where there was differences, and I give them hugs and stuff like that. There may have been a bit of that, and I could have been on both sides of that maybe at times too, right? So, yeah, maybe.
what kind of things were you feeling near the end of your military career emotionally?
Yeah, well, that was tough. I was definitely having issues with alcohol, so that's a big one. Then, in the military, it's especially when I was raised, and it was a very common thing. Alcohol was a very common thing. It was a legal outlet, right? So that's what we did, and we drank, and I definitely developed something, a problem, not something. I developed a problem with alcohol for many years, well over a decade of alcohol abuse and whatnot. So depression's now sitting in, and drinking a lot more. But I still was motivated. I still had motivation, right? Like I had dreams and aspirations. I made my own company called Bushwookie. And that was actually starting to get some attention, which was cool. I was working with veterans, and I felt like I was on the right path. I was developing new relationships. I'm now finally in contact with Veterans Affairs, so there was a transition of a hopeful, positive transition. I was doing everything I could, and then just I had a bad night, man, and just everything the way it were. Um, with Bushwookie, I actually started working with Arrowhead. I was working with veterans, and I found myself heavily involved with a lot of active crises where military law enforcement and like I'm hearing about paramedics and firefighters who were harming themselves and sometimes taking their own lives. And I was involved in a couple of active crises where I actually had to go and either take the phone call or physically intervene from someone taking their own life. And it was happening a lot, man. And then a good friend of mine took his life, Sergeant Johnny Little. Even before that, I lost a good friend to a brain tumor, Dale Franklin, man. Losing him, that sucked. And I lost Sergeant Johnny Little. I served with both of them with one PPC alive. And him taking his life, that shattered me. And I don't know, man. I always also had that perspective of if I'm going to take my own life, with the alcohol and the depression, like if I was going to go down that road, like I'm going to use my firearm, man. Like if I want a soldier's death, I earned it. That's mine. And unfortunately, that was a horrible, horrible mentality to have. Like, and it was something that was stuck. And so if anybody's up there listening, thinking that, if I'm going to do something to harm myself or others because of whatever reason, like, no, you got to get that toxic demon out of your head, man. That the soldier is not, like, you got to leave that on the battlefield. You know what I mean? Like, it's been hard to realize that the wars out there are not my wars, they're not my fault. I didn't do anything to cause that, But I didn't realize that until I put a gun to my head and I pulled the trigger and survived it. That night was pretty interesting because that was the night that God actually talked to me.
You put a post on Instagram, and I was looking at it, and it actually got me emotional thinking about it because I didn't actually understand what you had said at first. And then it kind of clicked, like, from a faith perspective, and I was going to ask you this question, I'll ask it to you after, almost like this is part of your story. This was part of your story to help other people who have those thoughts. Here's what you said. I didn't miss. I followed a direct order with confidence. I changed the angle.
Yeah, man.
I thank God every day I wake up.
Every day. I kissed my Bible before I came here. Probably multiple times. Yeah, because God was there that moment, man.
What did what was that moment right before?
So I'll explain one thing. So I did consume alcohol that night. Now, I've consumed alcohol many nights, multiple times, and much more levels than I did that night. right? Like I probably had maybe an ounce or two of tequila and half a tall boy. And that was within a couple of hours. You know what I mean? So that was, but the overwhelming feeling that I was having before that, I was in a very heated discussion with somebody. We're not going to talk about who. I was in a very heated discussion, and I was overwhelmed. I'll be honest with you, I don't even remember loading the rounds into the magazine, but I remember racking the gun. I remember loading the mag, racking it. I don't remember actually loading the ammo, but putting the mag in, racking it, and being like, fuck it. And I lost complete hope in all of humanity, man. Like that was a developing thing for a long time, that I was losing hope in humanity. Like right? There's alcohol and depression, seeing like someone laying on the side of the road and people were just slowly driving by and like not getting out the help. You know what I mean? Like I saw so much crap like that it was just a build up with all that. I got to the point where I was like, okay. I called 911. I could not get through. It rang for 18 seconds. And then I made another phone call. I didn't get through. And I said, fuck it. And I put the gun to my chin. And I started pulling up on the slack. And I knew at that point in time, like, the way the angle was. And as I was pulling the trigger, like, it was almost like I couldn't stop myself. Like, my finger was going. And in the back of my mind, like, this can't be happening. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, if it was really a God, or I might have said something like that. Like, I still try to relive and think about everything that happened, right? And I closed my eyes, and I heard, it sounded like it came through my stomach, but like a mile behind me. And it was like a direct, like Sergeant Major's voice say, like, change the angle, like, with authority, but like, make it happen now. Change the angle. I opened my eyes, I was like, what the fuck was that? And I heard it again, but more faint. I was like, roger that. And I changed, I knew I'm a sniper, man. I felt, I don't know, there was a wave of relief that I knew it was going to be okay. And I was like, this is happening. And I changed the angle. I can feel the hole right there. Pulled the trigger. My eyes were closed. I saw a flash behind my eyes, and I felt the bullet leave my forehead right there. And I was like, ow. And the impact on my forehead was like being knocked out, but I was completely conscious. I dropped the gun. I fell to the floor. And I lay there. I wasn't in any pain. But I can feel the blood rushing out. And I was like, holy fuck. Okay, yeah, this is happening, man. But I wasn't scared. I was calm, man. It was weird. But I knew I was in serious, serious danger. And I opened my left eye and I saw my phone in my hand. I was like, what? I'm like, I'm not moving. Like, if I move, like, I'm going to increase the blood flow. And I could probably faint and hit my head. So I'm like, I'm just going to lay right here and call 911. And that's what I did. Called them. I'd like to hear the footage, to be honest. Like, I know I asked them to help me, but, like, I believe there was a sense of panic, but, like, not really. Like, I felt fairly calm. Yeah. And then from there on, that's when things started to go black until I woke up in the hospital on Christmas Day.
The next day.
Yeah, Christmas Day. Yeah, so that was Christmas Eve that, I attempted suicide. But like I said, from there on, from when I heard that voice, I told people immediately. The moment like I came to, I realized I have 0 brain damage. I'm rocking and rolling. Like, okay, this happened. People need to know that. Like, I heard this voice change the angle, man.
What was your faith like before you heard that voice?
I had started going to church shortly before that. probably about a month before that. And every time I was there, man, I broke down. I couldn't keep it together. Tears were running down my face all the time. Like, there was something in me. And like, there's like, I've mentioned a couple of people, man, like I felt like God and I literally fought a demon that night. And like, not like a literal demon, you know what I mean? But like fighting those inner demons of anger and hatred and resentment and all that stuff, right? Whereas like after that, like a lot of that was let go. Like a lot of that black in my heart was let go. And there was times where I still get waves of that, but not like the intensity that was before, man. Like when I put the gun to my head, like I was done. I did not plan on surviving that.
Wow. The relationship that you had with your friend who had committed suicide, you said that broke you.
Yeah.
What was the timeline between your attempt and his?
A month.
Really?
Yeah, he was November 22nd. I was December 23rd, 24th. Yeah. So that all evolved into the 23rd, 24th. So it was like when I shot myself, it was 12:21 a.m. on Christmas Eve, like the beginning of Christmas Eve morning.
Right.
Yeah. It was crazy, man. And we're approaching 1 year right now of my survival, and I feel like I've evolved so much from that. Like, I don't have it all together, believe me. Like, it's still a work in progress, you know what I mean? But I feel like I've accomplished a lot from there. Like, I got new relationships in my life. You know, my commitment to my church is, you know, I would like to think that they can count on me, and, you know, yeah, and like my community around with Arrowhead, and like, I've been involved in multiple charity fundraisers with Rock to Remember, where at this point in time now, so like, this was a mess. Like, I lost teeth. I had a hole in the roof of my mouth, like, that went right into my sinus cavity. So I had to undergo a lot of surgeries, right? Like, so first of all, to our medical teams and the Dr. McCrae, and the nurses and medical teams at Hamilton General and St. Joseph's in Hamilton, thank you, because I wouldn't be here without them too. You know what I mean? Like, God was there to help me miss all the major functioning things, but like that's, you know, God bless our medical teams, man, for, you know, I can talk, I can eat, you know what I mean? I can drink water, I can still see, you know what I mean? Like, I'm driving, I'm living my life because of them, you know what I mean? So, and then going through all that, I had to fade through, I had a belly tube, so like,
Right.
I had to fade through that because this was why I was shut and like surgeries and all that stuff. I lost 50 pounds. I was 195 pounds the night that happened. I went down to 145. I was nothing. And I was still benching up to 200 pounds, which I was happy about. So, yeah, I still maintained my strength. I was working out in the hospitals. There was a TikTok video that I did where
You're doing push-ups.
you saw that? Okay.
I did. I did my research.
Okay, cool, man. So, you know, like I was like, I gotta fight. I gotta keep fighting, man. You know what I mean? So, I guess that's the biggest thing from here on out is that my perspective of when I was a young soldier, where, you know, like I was getting ready for war, you know, and my first deployment made me realize it's not all spray and pray and take down the bad guys. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? Like, you're really like trying to do a good job of helping people, liberate people, while, you know, if there is a threat, you have to be able to react appropriately, right? And especially within the rules of engagement, and do that with giving people dignity, right? And then to a point where losing faith in humanity, you know, Taliban took over Afghanistan. It's like, okay, we lost 158 people to that war, and now it's flipped, right? You see, there's other wars going on with, you know, Russia and Ukraine. I bet you, if I didn't do this, I would have left. I was in that mentality where I would have went. You know, just because I was like, now leaving the military, you lose that sense of purpose, right? Like, and there's a lot of soldiers that are feeling that. They need to feel like, I need to die with heroism or something like that. Like, I don't do it, man. Like, it's not your war. Like, if Canada wants to play a role, then, allow Canada to do that. If you feel like Canada should play a major role, then get involved with your MPs and politicians and, stand up and voice your opinions on whether we should be more involved or not. But don't go out there and just throw your life out into something that, that right now it's not your war. If Canada wants to play a role, then let Canada play the role. You know what I mean? It's not our fault.
Yeah. You mentioned purpose.
Yeah.
You feel like all your purpose is in the military. It's in what you're serving. It's in the commodity that you've joined in and in what you're fighting for. Everybody's fighting towards one goal.
Yeah.
And that is what?
And that's just really, can't we all just get along? You know what I mean? Like, let's help thy neighbor. Let's like, there's so many amazing, that was the thing. That all I can see was the toxicity in society, where now I'm seeing the bright future, like, such as you guys. Like, you know what I mean? This is nice and bright environment where you're trying to do positive things, and that's what I want to be involved with. That's why I'm involved with Arrowhead Coffee. You know what I mean? Like, we always want to be involved where we can help our community in any which way we can, right? Or if we're working with first responders and, veterans or politicians or any, like, schools and wherever, like, if we can help guide people's direction in a positive direction, then that's what we want to be involved in. And sometimes hearing a sad story and understanding, like, yeah, I was in a dark place, man, but I survived. I found my faith, and now I can see the goodness in life. Now I can appreciate life. Joy is a choice. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and play the victim anymore. Like, and I think that's a big problem some of us do too, right? Like, it's so easy to sit there and drown our sorrows and be, I was done run by. You know what I mean? Where it's like, how about let's, bring joy into our life and be like, whatever, I'll just work with what I have. I'm grateful for what I have right now. Right?
Some people say, a lot of people have opinions on people who attempt to commit suicide. Positive and negative opinions, like everybody in every situation.
Yeah.
What was your opinion on, to go back, your friend who committed suicide? What did you think about him after he did that? Were you angry? Were you sad? What were the emotions that you were feeling?
I don't think there was ever a moment of anger because I could understand where he was coming from, right? So the sadness of, like, what breaks my heart more is that he left 4 beautiful boys behind, along with a brother, a sister, his mom and dad, a fiance, and yeah, it's horrible, and you just think about that. At first, I couldn't go and face the funeral. I couldn't do it. I tried to be a tough guy, and nope, you know what I mean? What's done is done. I have other things I need to focus about, whereas obviously do something like that, develop a little bit of regret, and then eventually I did go out. I saw his grave site. I saw the family, and now there's that commitment to that family that I want to. They live pretty far, but if there's something that the kids need or the family needs or something like that, there's a couple of us are making sure that the family is not forgotten. You know what I mean? That they have. Me and Johnny served in the 1st Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. That's what that tattoo represents right there. Both
on your hand.
Yeah, these are both the regiments that I served with. Right, these are called handshake tattoos, and Johnny Little was part of that one. And there's a few of us that are in the surrounding area that we want to make sure that if the family needs anything, we're there, right? We're part of that family, and the military is a family. And that's the most important thing. Like, oh man, you want to talk about feeling like a bit of a jackass after you shoot yourself and survive when your inbox on Facebook and Instagram is full of thousands of messages, thousands.
So my question to you is, you said in a post that it was instant regret. Instant.
Immediately.
Was there a sense of selfishness? Some people say that it's selfish for somebody to take their life because of the people that it affects. How do you feel about that?
I felt more selfish dialing 911 because I knew right away that I'm now, I'm on taxpayers' dime for, putting me back together. That was one thing that went through my head. Dialing 911, like I was like, I can think of all the embarrassment of the stupid comments that people are going to make. Oh, you're a sniper, you missed, like, you want to know how many times I've heard that this year? Like I saw all that. Before I dialed 911, there was a moment where I sat there and I looked at my phone. I put in 911, but I didn't hit send. And I sat there for a moment and I was like, I thought of a million things, and of why not to hit send. And there was a couple of things where I had hope, and I found hope, and I hit send. I called 911, and yeah, I guess that was. But at no point, like, I guess I didn't feel selfish, but I have to definitely be grateful for what happened. Like, if someone's gonna take their life, like, you have no idea how scary and committed you are to, if you want to take your own life, it's my life. I went to war, man. Like, I was already planning to die on a battlefield, and I fully accepted that. So, but now that I survived this, I have a different mentality. I have a very military soldier mentality, where maybe I didn't appreciate my life. Like I was like, think of a German Shepherd. You know what I mean? That's not an active police dog or a military dog. His whole purpose is to do that job. And I felt like that's kind of where I was at. And I was like, once you leave that, then what's the point?
Interesting. Yeah.
Right?
It's 100% a valid.
And I tried to I worked on it. But I was already trying to work away from that. Like, I had a couple of dangerous suicide scenarios where it wasn't necessarily suicide, but like there was one day I drove for work up north in a blizzard, man, and I was driving fast and I was crying the whole way because I was like, but I kept the vehicle controlled to a point where obviously I didn't want to put anybody else in danger, but I was driving to a point where on a nice long open road where I don't see anything, it was completely black outside, that if I don't survive this, like that was kind of like the case. Like I was hitting the pedals so hard in a blizzard, driving as fast as I could, man. I was crying, and by the time I made it to work, I was like, I want to survive. I want to live. You know what I mean? And for a long time, I held on to that, And then, I don't know, like I said, I had a bad night where living with a long period of time of depression, alcohol abuse, and, you lose hope in humanity, like, I don't know, it happens.
I'm sure somebody's asked you this, but I want to ask you anyways. Do you regret that decision?
It's hard to say because, like, I regret, yes. But I'm also very grateful for where I am right now because I'm now living proof that I survived, and yes, I do regret what I did. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so grateful to be alive that I do have this story to tell that I'm like, it has to be told. You know what I mean? That I survived a very dark period in my life, but I didn't I didn't need to put a gun to my head to figure that out.
It's really,
You know what I mean?
I know, it's really interesting that you said that. I asked this question to some other individuals who have had very scary health situations. You know, like I was telling you before, heart attacks, you know, heart surgeries, cancer multiple times, all this kind of stuff, where they were basically looking at death.
Yeah.
And what they said to me was, I asked them the question of, you know, was this the best or worst decision that you ever made? And what's interesting is a lot of them actually say the best. They say that their perspective on life has shifted and changed and adjusted in such a good way. They are forever grateful for that.
Yeah.
What's interesting, I'll ask them the follow-up question to that, and I'll ask you, is it bad that human beings almost need that scare of life-ending circumstances to appreciate what they have? Is that a negative thing?
You know what, man? It's not that it's a negative thing. It's a real thing. That it's funny. I love watching music documentaries, and a lot of rock stars such as Alice Cooper. His quote was, "You never really find God until you hit rock bottom, and then you just sit there and say, God, please help me." You know what I mean? It's unfortunate that as our human nature that we really find God when we hit rock bottom, and then we find it, and then we're forever grateful. It's just unfortunate that we hope that we can, you know, speak to people and be like, you know, God's with us all. You know, it's just what if you accept Him into your life, and you know, and if you have that in your life, you can find joy in so many different things, right? Like this hard work is obviously for you guys. You know what I mean? You'll find joy in that, but sometimes you may get to a point where you're not necessarily happy doing it because you're like, it's just hard work. I
Very
haven't
true.
slept in a couple of days and stuff like that, right? But you get happiness with the joy that you choose to bring into your life, right? So
Can I ask you this? Did you have that, what you just said, that perspective before,
I was working on that, yeah.
but it wasn't confident?
No. Unfortunately, like I went through a very difficult heartbreak at that point in time where at the same time I wasn't necessarily getting professional help at that time. I was kind of figuring things out on my own, right? I was starting to get through the process with Veterans Affairs, but I'm now speaking to a psychologist, right? And dealing with other medical professionals, and you know, I'm obviously a lot better off because I'm getting professional help, right? Whereas that before, I was kind of just winging it, and I was working hard in some relationships in my life and my business, and things just didn't work out, unfortunately, you know what I mean? And that, I was trying to find that before, like I was going to church before the incident. I was really trying to bring God into my life, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, you know, I put a gun to my head and I spoke to God. No, I was really trying to bring God into my life before that, you know what I mean? So I believe that's why I had maybe such a positive response. You know, for a long time, I was really trying to do positive things, being involved with my community. So I was really developing. But I'm human, right? I'm gonna have moments where I do revert back to the blackness in my heart, and that's what I'm trying to get rid of. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Like, if you have blackness in your heart, man, like you gotta try to find a way to get rid of it, man. Don't sit back and let this person screwed me over, or I should have done this better. Like, be grateful and find the joy of things that we have, and just try to do. I think the more good that you do, the more good will come back into your life. If you see someone struggling with their groceries, help them. You know what I mean? Someone needs help walking across the street, help them. If you have a moment that someone needs help, shoveling their driveway, and you have a moment, help them out. Say hi to someone. Don't be afraid to be friendly, man. Like, we need more of that. And like, I was trying to develop that before this happened, and now it's, but I'm human. There's still even moments today where I get angry. You know what I mean? I still get sad. Life is difficult. Life can be tough, right? Life can suck sometimes, man. Like, it can throw us curveballs. Like, my pastor, one of my pastors is now someone who devoted their entire life to God, and now has, a severe illness where it's life-threatening. You know what I mean? Like, but is that going to make me give up on my hope of my faith? No. I believe that there is destiny. I believe that, I don't know, if you open your hearts and minds, man, like, you'd be amazed where it can take you. Are you religious?
I am a Christian, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. My question, I always play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
All the time, because a lot of the reason we do this show is for people to seek new perspective, whether or not they agree with it.
Yeah.
That's why the whole selfish question, people might be like, oh, why did you ask him that? Well, because some people think that. So from somebody who has been in the dirt, who has been through that, it's interesting to hear your perspective. My next question is interesting you brought that up, about you do believe in destiny, and you believe that, well, I don't want to put any words in your mouth. So answer this question here. Was it meant to happen? Was this intended for you to...
No, I did not see my life being like this at all.
Right.
Like, I'm just kind of going with the flow, and I'm trying to listen to my heart, and trying to listen to, and God will speak to you, man. If you, like, answers are there. He'll speak to you, like, if you allow him to. It's funny just how things unfold sometimes. And, like, a friend of mine, Joey DeMauro from Soldier Boy Fitness, when we went away, we went and did the Bruce Trail. It was 900 kilometers for that charity. We raised $285,000 for homeless veterans, yeah.
Wow.
And we're trying to help out with our community there. And in conjunction with the Royal Canadian Legion, many different sponsors, but Joey, he's not religious. Leno, a good friend of mine, Julio, he's one who brought me to church. And it was like that entire summer, we all had some sort of healing. And there was some sort of, like, I believe Leno couldn't have done it without me. I couldn't have done it without Leno or Joey. Leno couldn't have done it with Joey because they're the ones who walked it. And there was like something with that triangle where I know that Joey saw the signs of God. You know what I mean? I think he's maybe being a little bit stubborn, but I know he talked about it. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, there's something spiritual out here, man. I'm like, yeah. And I've always, like, I've even looked at, like, First Nations and their spirituality, and there's something spiritual in Mother Nature, man, and God's talking to you when you're out there.
I have a question that I want to ask you, and I don't want to sidetrack this, but I thought about this morning. I went to Starbucks at like 7 o'clock and was just figuring out, where I wanted to take the conversation. I'm very happy with where it's going. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot out of this. I also do interviews on the street. I interview random people on the street. I don't know if you've seen them or not, but
No.
I go around and I just walk up to random people in a mall or in Niagara Falls and whatnot, and I ask them questions. And recently we've been directing them towards more controversial topics. One of them was, do you believe that minimum wage should be higher, lower, or it's good where it's at? Another one was, how do you feel about climate change? First of all, do you think it's real? And second of all, if so, or if not, why? Just kind of shifting perspective and challenging Canadians to think on hard topics. Here's where I'm going with this. One of the topics that we asked random people was Canada's position for agreement for assisted suicide for people with mental illnesses as a sole decision. And I wanted to ask you this question because everybody can have an opinion, but for somebody who's actually gone through that process and miraculously made it out with what is an incredible new purpose, how do you feel about that?
About the assisted suicide?
Yeah, how do you feel about Canada's agreement and support for it?
I mean, if someone's like terminally ill and I think every scenario and circumstance is unique. You know what I mean? Who am I to say? You know what I mean? That if someone's living in severe pain that I can't even comprehend, like I feel like I don't really have, but for me to go in there, the healthy I am right now, be like, take my life, like, no, man. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that.
Because this is directed towards mental illness. Yeah. It's not a foreseeable death.
Like, so if I'm just like tormented and whatnot, that I'm like, if instead of putting a gun to my head, I went into the doctor and said, put a needle in me, I'm done. Like, I don't agree with that, right? But I mean, like, I don't know. I think it's hard to, I think that's a massive can of worms that you're opening there, right? So,
and you know what? We don't have to get into it.
I'm not a medical professional, you know what I mean? But I'll give you an example, though.
Yeah.
My friend Dale Franklin would probably would have slapped me for what I did. Dale Franklin, he lost his life. He had a brain tumor, man, and they offered him assisted suicide. I served with him overseas. And he basically threw the brochure in their face. You know what I mean? And he wore a shirt that said, never give up. You know? And like I said, he would have slapped me for what I did. You know what I mean? Probably slapped me a lot. And he was a tough dude, man. And, so for him to make that choice that he, like, never give up, man, like, I'm so proud of that strength in him for him to do that. But if that was something that he wanted to do, I probably would have supported it. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what the pain was. Like, you could see him, like, what's the word I'm looking for? He was like fading so fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what he's going through, man. Like, as a brother, like, I would have been like, I was hoping to see him before he died, but that didn't happen either, right? So maybe he was holding out for that, Yeah, it sucks. But if that was something that he wanted to do, I would have supported that.
It's an interesting point of view, and that's why I asked you, because we got a lot of different opinions.
Yeah.
Like, we asked about 20 people, just random people, literally, shopping. It's a tough topic to ask a random stranger, but we got a lot of different views, and I'm always curious. Like I told you right before we even turned on the cameras, like it comes from a genuine place asking these questions because I want to better my perspective in a selfish way. I want to become a better person, and in my opinion, by doing that is seeking new perspective. How do you feel about new perspective?
I think as long as you share it, then it's not selfish.
Yeah.
Like if I'm buying a bunch of pizza, I eat it for myself. Well, that's selfish. If I buy a bunch of pizza and hand it out, well, that's not selfish.
Yeah. And I think that's the joy and passion behind this show is we have great conversation and we get to help other people with new perspective.
And I'm with you, man. I will help you with that in any way I can, right? Like, I believe I had a very great military career. But it's not the military's fault. You know what I mean? There are things that happen during the military. There was I know quite a few people who lost their lives in the war. I've, seen brothers go down, multiple friends go down, stuff like that. But it's not the military's fault for what happened, right? I didn't take care of my mental health. That's what happened.
So as we close off the interview, what I had written this morning was, how do you wish your whole situation impact other people? If you left this earth tomorrow, what impact would you wish to leave on everybody you were around?
I'm gonna get you to ask me that one more time because my mind just went like 1,000 miles so quickly.
No worries, no worries.
Like, what do I want to say? So ask me that one more time.
I'll ask it slower here. It's a tough question. because I know I can see you want to answer it honestly. What impact, if you left this earth tomorrow, what do you wish people would be impacted from by you that were surrounded by you? What do you want to leave on this earth?
God is real, and kindness is amazing. Love is king. You know what I mean? And it's amazing how much that ripple effect is. A lot easier said than done. Like I said, we all experience anger and sadness and frustration, but if you can control your thoughts and your emotions, which I'm learning a lot more with getting professional help. It's amazing the ripple effect that it has, and if you try to continue to be kind and helpful and guide people in a positive direction, that hopefully we can put down all of our rifles. We can hopefully minimize crime. You know what I mean? And like come together as one. You know, people have different perspectives. People have different religions. I don't look at, I want to see, if I see someone, I treat them equally, no matter what their color is, of their skin, their hair, their fingernails. And then, like, I just want people to feel happiness in their heart, really, man. And for me to find that, yeah, I need a lot of help from God. I need a lot of help from my friends. I need a lot of help from my family and friends. And, yeah, to leave something behind that I am sorry for what I have done. I am grateful for where I am today, and I hope that I can continue to do good things.
Okay, last thing. Talk about your company.
Oh, Bushwookie.
Bushwookie.
So, if you don't know what the logo is, it's got a dude that's a sniper. So it's another word for sniper, Bushwookie.
Oh, is that what the term was when you were in the military?
Yeah, Bushwookie sniper, right? So, it was a fun play on words and whatnot, and it was all my artwork that I put on there and put on T-shirts. But since my injury, I haven't really done anything much, but I'm hoping to bring it back. Kind of doing some planning right now, but I'm also very committed to Arrowhead Coffee, which is a veteran-owned and operated business. Len Bolle, I got to speak with, amazing man. He's a Christian as well, Christian family. He was there, and his family was there for my baptism, and I've done so many amazing things with them. So I want to work with them, and maybe we'll revisit Bushwookie in the new year. But that was all like apparel, hats, and I gave a lot to charity. At one point in time, there was a police officer who lost his life over a year ago on New Year's Eve, Sergeant Harnett, and I did a fundraiser, and I basically gave all the money that I had in the Bushwookie account to the families to help support them over the holidays and that time. Right? It was a very difficult time. A police officer lost his life in the line of duty, and yeah, I wanted to get back into helping, and hopefully, the big thing is leading by example, right? I think if you walk the talk, then you know what I mean. That it's amazing what that does, right? You guys are doing that right now. Like, I appreciate that. I hope that this helps.
Well, we appreciate you and telling your story. What question would you have for the next guest?
Who's the next guest?
I can't tell you.
Oh, really?
Yep, we do it as a trend. And actually, our last guest, they asked, and you can answer this. I waited till the end to ask you this. How do you not fall asleep in these chairs?
Oh,
Are they comfortable?
I mean, like I'm cool. I'm I don't know.
So what question would you have for the next guest? And I can't tell you who they are.
Do you believe in Christmas magic?
Do you believe?
Believe in Christmas magic? I do. I hung up my stocking yesterday, and I was like, man, Christmas magic for the children, like, gotta let them have that. You know what I mean? Like, Christmas for kids is the best. You know?
And David, your last name again?
Ward, W-A-R-D. I hope you guys can understand me, man. Like, yeah, obviously, I have my speech has become a lot better, but yeah.
We can understand you just clear.
Cool,
Don't
man.
worry about it. Guys, this was David Ward's story. I want to thank you very much for listening and watching, wherever you're watching. Please comment down below questions that you might have for David, but more importantly, the cause of Arrowhead and what they are supporting, Arrowhead Coffee.
Yep.
Can you purchase online?
Yeah, arrowhead.coffee.
So please go visit arrowhead.coffee.
Sure.
There you go. Arrowhead.coffee. Great coffee. And you can support them there and support David.
I
And
got some for you in the vehicle.
oh, you're unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, man. To everybody listening and watching, I want to thank you. It's currently Christmas Eve when we are launching this episode. And it's unbelievable and something I think supernatural for David to be able to come on here. 1 year ago, he had his incident, and now he's back. He's better than ever, and he's a hero, and he's inspiring, hopefully, thousands.
I'm humbled. Thank you.
All right, guys, Merry Christmas, and have a wonderful New Year.